Test one, two, test. Pineapple. Pineapple. All right, how's it sound?
Perfect.
Perfect pineapple. All right. Ready when you are, sir.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
In the world of somebody who is an authoritarian, maybe a dictatorship, sooner or later everyone is going to be touched.
All right, Jesse, welcome to the show. Thank you, first of all, for stepping in and being my co-host tonight. Docs is supposed to be back in like a week. He's recovering from his surgery still. I supposedly went well. A little gender affirming care, I guess. Hoping to have him back in like a week. You might be on with me again, but welcome. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so I think most of our show knows Docs as a 40-ish-year-old bald white male. Modern science is amazing, and the next time you see Docs, he might have a full head of hair, is what I'm being told. He's been
You
bald.
serious?
He's been bald since high school.
He's been bald since, yeah, I think it was transitioning from junior high to high school. He was one of
Yeah,
the lucky contestants that had his hair run away pretty quick. But
he did,
hey,
and he's been having to live in a body that he wasn't comfortable with for a long time. And due to wonderful gender affirming care, he's gonna have a full head of hair again. I hope so. We'll see what it looks like next time he's on. Um,
are you yanking my chain or are you being serious about that?
I think he's getting hair plugs, is what I've been told. So I don't know.
Really?
We'll have to see. Um,
Good for him. I hope he is. He'll be the guinea pig 'cause I don't know anybody on a personal level that's had that
what-
done. And from what I understand, it has to be hair that comes from your body. And in the last year, I've paid a lot of money to have that hair removed. And so I think I just screwed the pooch by, yeah, getting rid of any kind of real estate that they'd be able to move from my butt to my head.
I'm sure we can find some on you somewhere. Maybe not. I don't know if this. I don't know how invasive you're doing the laser hair removal, but you need to leave a patch somewhere so you have some transplant hair. Just saying.
There's a patch, but
Yeah.
not much
So
more.
so the main thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight, James Tallarico, the Texas Democrat that seems like a lot of Democrats across the nation are falling in love with. He mentioned on when he was on Rogan, he mentioned something about two West Texas oil billionaires that are controlling the state. And recently, you told me that you have insight into that. You said you could talk a little bit on that. So we're going to get to that. This is a teaser for the crowd for later.
Okay.
But first, we kind of not breaking news, but I wanted to get your opinion. I talk to Docs about politics all the time, and Docs is way further left than me. I don't really know where you fall on the spectrum. I don't think we've talked a lot of politics in the last 10 years. I kind of have an idea, but the Jimmy Kimmel, I guess the Charlie Kirk situation and the Jimmy Kimmel situation. Jimmy Kimmel got removed from the air last night. It's weird because I find myself defending things I don't want to defend and like agreeing with things I don't want to agree with. But like I never really watched Kimmel. I was a Colbert guy, and I'll watch a little Seth Meyers, but I'm mainly a Colbert guy. Kimmel I haven't watched really at all. But I gotta say, I kind of think it's bullshit. What's your take on what's happening here?
I'd say it's bullshit indeed. I mean, for a lot of people, I think on the surface, the optics of it appear to be, something that was said that was maybe too racy or against the grain. But if you really do follow Jimmy Kimmel, I mean, it's been a long history of he and Colbert just beating up on, uh, you know, DJT. And
What
so I think this is something that's been out there for a while, just kind of waiting in the wind.
and one thing I'll say, Colbert at least, like I said, I don't watch Kimmel, but Colbert was giving Biden a hard time for 4 years. It wasn't nearly as hard a time as he's giving Trump, but like it's not like he wasn't picking on Biden. He had a Biden impression where he'd put on the sunglasses and kind of do the big smile, and he would do his Biden frequently. Now the Republicans will say that like, oh, well, he wasn't nearly as hard on Biden as he is on Trump. I would say Biden didn't give him as much ammunition. Like Biden wasn't out doing ridiculous corrupt things on a daily basis. He was doing old man senile things, and that's what they were picking on him for. But Trump gives his critics a lot of information or a lot of ammo, I guess.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've actually heard both of them mention that before from the what is it, 2020 election, excuse me, whenever Biden won. And just talking about, hey, this is fantastic, but a lot of my impersonations are going to have to be put in a drawer for a while, and presidential content's going to be a whole lot less. And yeah, it seemed like everybody on mainstream late night TV talk shows were, trumping it up pretty heavily every day, and When Biden was in office, crickets.
That's what, and the thing is, like, I would rather, like, me and Docs record twice a week, and like, it's always like 10 things that Trump did that we're upset about. And like, there's a lot of other news that I would much rather be talking about. Like, if there was ever a day, like, if we went to record and it was like, oh, Trump hasn't really done anything in the last 3 or 4 days, let's talk about what's going on in Israel and Gaza, or, whatever. Like, I would like to talk about those things. But unfortunately, if you give me 3 or 4 days between recordings, like, I have a list of things Trump has done that we kind of need to talk about. So today, today it's Jimmy Kimmel. To back up real quick for anybody who didn't see what's going on. First of all, when Charlie Kirk got killed, a bad thing. Anything we're going to say going forward, I want to make sure and make it clear. Like, you don't kill somebody you disagree with. I think we can both agree on that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So to get that out of the way, the night that it happened, Jimmy Kimmel did a tweet that was pretty nice. So yeah, Kimmel said, instead of the angry finger pointing, can we just for one day agree that it's horrible and monstrous to shoot another human? On behalf of my family, we send love to the Kirks and to all the children, parents, and innocent victims or innocents who fall victim to senseless gun violence. So right there, I no problem with that whatsoever. His monologue, which I should have pulled, but his monologue that night was pretty touching. Like he very much was against what happened to Charlie Kirk. He said all the right things. So we fast forward to, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday night. He goes on, and now we're going to play this in a second here, but everybody's saying that like it was so disrespectful of Charlie. Have you seen the clip in question that he got canned for?
The Jimmy clip?
Yeah, the Jimmy Kimmel clip where he made the joke about. Have you seen it?
I have.
Okay, so we're going to play it in a second, but like I'd like to point out before we play it, he didn't really say a whole lot about Charlie Kirk. Like the joke wasn't on Charlie. It was, he made a comment, which on Monday when this was recorded, there was a lot of theories that he was a groyper, which I'm still not quite sure what a groyper is, and that part of the Nick Fuentes army. But people were saying that. The right was saying he's a big lefty, and the lefties saying it's a MAGA guy. That was going on. And then Tuesday, the text messages and a lot of the information came out, and it appears, I don't know if he was full on left, but he definitely was on the left as far as gay values or LGBTQ values, I would say. So not a MAGA guy. Plus, it appears he didn't like Trump at all. So definitely not a MAGA. Jimmy was wrong. But he makes fun of Republicans for trying to point the finger and use it for political gain, and then he makes fun of Trump. Tell me if you hear him saying anything bad about Charlie in this clip.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
Your thoughts?
It's speak my mind, it's disgusting, right? President of the United States, I don't care who you are, I don't care what president it is. Somebody passed away that you are politicizing around, and even if you weren't, I mean, it shows to me that you could care less that that human being lost their life.
Well, and that's what everybody was coming out at first and saying, oh, he was like a son to Trump. That's not the only clip. The one that Kimmel played, there were 2 other clips that I didn't want to get just overload us with clips, but where a reporter said, sir, like, how are you doing on a human level? Like, how are you doing? And both times he like changed subject and started talking about something else. And like, maybe let's give Trump the benefit of the doubt. We all know guys that don't like to talk about their feelings. And if you say like, hey man, how you holding up? They go, oh, good. I've been doing a lot of fishing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not what I'm asking you. And maybe he was deflecting because he didn't want to get emotional in front of the media. I don't know. But three times I saw him get asked how he was personally doing. And every time he just kind of blah, 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 moved on. It doesn't seem like he's showing empathy or emotions. Is what kind
I
of
mean,
where
to
I'm at.
be perfectly fair, if he is treating them like Don Jr. or Eric, then I think he's doing a fantastic job.
That's true. That's he's treating him just like one of his sons. He
Just
couldn't
like one
care
of his
less.
own.
Yeah. So we had that happen. If if they'd fired Jimmy Kimmel for that just organically, like there was an uproar, the viewers were mad, the sponsors were threatening to pull their advertising dollars, and the execs at ABC/Disney said, "Hey, that was too far. We're firing you." I would have no problem with it whatsoever. That's how the market's supposed to work. Like you have freedom of speech in this country, but like your speech has consequences. Like if you say some really nasty shit and you take a hit in one way or another for it, there's public outlash. Like, yeah, anything you say, you have to pay the consequences for. So if that was the case, would you have been upset if just his boss didn't like it, he's fired? Like it would
I think
suck if you're. Go ahead.
I was gonna say if it was egregious, right? And I think if the general public political views aside thought it was egregious, totally get it.
Do you think that joke was over the line or egregious? Where does that fall for you?
One of the things that I think I found the most both comical and disheartening was the joke wasn't even said by Jimmy Kimmel, right? The joke was the joke itself, right? The way that Trump handled it, that was the joke.
To me, it seemed like it was the Trump was the butt of the joke. Charlie Kirk really had very little to do. I mean, I guess he did because he's the one that died, but like there was nothing negative to Charlie Kirk in that joke whatsoever. And that's what everybody online, and I'm too Twitter brained these days, but they're trying to say like, I can't believe he disrespected Charlie like that, and like it's a whole thing. I don't see that in what he said. Like it was a burn on Trump. Agreed?
And I agree. I agree. And I know we hear this a lot, but I'm kind of wondering who those people are. I'm sure there's a lot of comments posted somewhere. I've not seen them. I don't care to read them. But you hear the buzz that people are upset at Jimmy Kimmel. But I'm wondering if it's people that are genuinely upset or if somebody's just echoing the fact that, and it might not be a fact that they're upset. And we're just hearing people say that they're upset, even though it's a very select few.
I have a theory on what we're seeing online, but I'm going to save that for in a little bit here. But I do have a theory on the people I'm seeing. I'm going to say people very loosely because I think they could be bots. I think they could be being amplified, but we'll get back to that. The problem with this whole Kimmel situation, like I said, had his bosses just fired him due to public uproar, then sucks, but too bad. Are you familiar with anything that Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, what he was up to earlier that day?
Very little, just that there was a conversation, and that conversation was very black and white and to the point, without a lot of, I don't know, without a lot of merit.
So you're very accurate on that. He went on Benny Johnson's podcast. Benny Johnson, I point this out every time, but is one of the 4 or 5 Republican podcasters that it turned. We learned like 6 months ago they were getting paid by Russia for their content. So and they all supposedly did not know that it was Russia. They thought it was some like rich billionaire from out of the country, but they didn't know he was Russian. There was somebody they'd never met that offered to pay them like $100,000 per episode, and they all signed up. Him and Tim Pool, and I think Dave Rubin. Anyhow, they all got off scot-free because they basically claimed we had no clue that it was the Russian government paying us. Anyhow, he's on Benny Johnson's podcast, and Kimmel has been a fixation of Trump's for a while. Trump was going after Colbert hardcore, and the day that Colbert got fired, Trump tweeted, "Yay, the loser Colbert is fired," however he said it, but he said, "Next up, Jimmy Kimmel," and he's been tweeting about Jimmy Kimmel off and on ever since. Brendan Carr is the head of the FCC. He's a Trump pick. He's also one of the guys that helped write Project 2025, so keep that in mind. But he goes on this show and spends quite a bit of time talking about Jimmy Kimmel. I do have one clip from that we're going to listen to real quick.
But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC. Again, there's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster are running the possibility of fines or license revocations from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion. So
seems a little little bit of an ultimatum.
It did. He said flat out, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. And then he said, if they don't want to get rid of Kimmel on their own, then the FCC is going to have a little more work to do. Basically, meaning there's going to be some kind of an investigation or probe into ABC Disney. So that he's laying down the gauntlet. Get rid of Kimmel, or we're coming after you. The full weight of the FCC and the American government's coming after you. Also. He pointed out towards the end that the individual network, like broadcast stations, could just refuse to air it, which is exactly what happened. So what he suggested should happen. There's a company called Nexstar. They own apparently over 200 markets, like ABC affiliates. They are the ones that initially got the ball rolling on this. They called ABC Disney and said, "Hey, we are not airing Jimmy Kimmel anymore." And then Sinclair Broadcasting, which is have you ever seen that video where it's like local news stations and it starts off with one of them talking and then before you know it, there's like 50 on it and they're all saying the same message? I should have pulled that. It's been going around for years now, but Sinclair owns most of the, not most, they have a TV station in every market pretty much. Anyhow, so those two said we're not carrying it and they kind of forced Disney's hand. It turns out it's always about money. Nexstar owns 38%. They have a 38% share of all the broadcast stations. The limit that you're allowed to own is 39%. If you're anti-monopoly type stuff, no one media conglomerate can own more than 39% of like local broadcast stations. They are trying to buy a company called Tegna, which if they successfully do this, they will own 80% of local broadcast stations, which is well over. Brendan Carr said recently that he's open to it, but they would need his approval. So for this merger to go through, Brendan Carr has to approve. And Brendan Carr just said, hey, it'd be a good idea if you told ABC you're not going to air Jimmy Kimmel anymore. So seems obvious where we're at.
Yeah, it smells like propaganda.
It does. It's very scary. Overall, I'll just say this. I'm starting to feel like remember before the election when like Elon and Rogan and everybody on the right was saying this is all about free speech? Like, you know, the Democrats are trying to attack free speech and Donald Trump's going to save it. You remember all that?
I do.
How do you feel the state of the First Amendment and free speech are doing right now, 8 months in?
I think it's made a complete 180.
It's pretty bad, isn't it? Am I imagining this? Like, be real with, am I hallucinating or are we in a little bit of trouble when it comes to free speech?
So I don't know if it was Doc or somebody else who made the comment about, kind of like what you just alluded to, Musk with the purchase of X talked about, no, there will be virtually zero censorship. Like, I want this space to be a place where you can 1000% say whatever you want. This is your safe spot. And I think even Elon early on started to delete or redact certain posts, if I'm not mistaken.
And he was basically kicking different journalists off that were writing bad things about him. He was kicking them off of Twitter, which, free speech. I do have, and I just pulled this for fun real quick. I'm hitting you with a lot of videos real quick, but I saw this video today and it reminded me, this was only 7 months ago. But here's Elon. I think this might have been at a TPUSA or one of the conservative conventions. But here's Elon talking about free speech.
And have like a sense of humor, So, the sort of the left wanted to make comedy illegal, Like, you can't make fun of anything. So then it was like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Yeah. Legalize comedy.
And we've shifted the entire culture. And
how much ketamine do you think he was on in that moment?
Being someone who is taking ketamine and realizing that sometimes your arms and legs just don't move the way you think that your brain is getting them to move, he might be on something else. He seems a little too jovial and physically excited to be.
I have no ketamine experience. What I know about ketamine is from watching Elon. So, but real quick, me and you have had lots of talks about Elon, right?
Tons, over the years, many.
Had he stayed in his lane and just focused on like solar and electric cars and just inventions, SpaceX, like I think he would have gone down in history books as like a Tesla type, Nikolai Tesla, or one of the great inventors of our time. the guy screwed up his image so incredibly bad, just through getting into politics. And now a good portion of the right hates him. There's still plenty of fanboys on the right, but there's a good portion of the right that are mad at him for when he said that Trump was in the Epstein files, which, ding, 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 it appears he was dead on that one. But what are your thoughts on where Elon's at today?
I gotta say, I don't even know what planet or solar system Elon is currently located in. I've actually snooped around a little bit, try to find out a little bit more about what's been going on. I've heard that he's gone off the deep end. I don't know if that's people just taking advantage of, his presence in the last 6 months, whenever he was actively a part of Congress, but he seems so far off the reservation, even more than usual. I mean, the stock is down over 50%. From what I understand, he's trying to open up a third party. I don't know who he's even trying to attract with that.
His Tesla stock is making a comeback right now. So his Tesla, it was way down, but it is making a comeback at the moment. So give him that. Mainly because he got the hell out of American politics. He is very involved in what's going on in England right now. Like he's trying to get this far right candidate elected. He tried to do it in Germany with the AfD party, which people are saying is like the modern Nazi party. I don't know if that's true. I don't pay attention to German politics, but there's a guy in England named like Tommy Robinson, which we could spend a long time talking about, but he's fully backing that guy in his fight against censorship and whatever. So he's trying to help crush the left in multiple countries around the world at the same time. He's into that.
Yeah, I don't even know what year it was, but I feel like I've heard you say the exact same thing on one of these shows, but it had to be, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago. It seemed like everybody who brought up Elon Musk's name, it was still new enough for a lot of us that a lot of people didn't know who he was. And then they associated him with Tesla and then eventually SpaceX. But when you really break it down, right, you look at virtually any cartoon movie, any action movie over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, even taking it all the way back to the Bond era. Um, yeah, he's kind of like the token bad guy. He's a super villain. He's got rockets. He's brilliant. When you're looking at Neuralink and the way that they're going to integrate being able to put a chip in your brain and gain immediate intelligence, I don't know. I see a lot of what he does on the surface, and I think he's there for humanity. But I hate to say it because I was not the most popular kid when I was, younger, whether it was my aesthetic or being new to a new school. But he strikes me as the kid who probably got made fun of a lot. And, with the sale of PayPal and, making his first, millions and billions, he just seems like he has the motive and he has the arsenal and the resources to be that guy to just, I don't know, stick up some deuces to the rest of the world and leave planet Earth on a rocket.
No, he's like a comic book villain or like a Marvel movie villain. Like that's all I can really think to compare him to. You know what the better comparison is? I just thought of this. You know how everybody knows like that one kid from high school that kind of like he got picked on and then he kind of turned into a dick and he became a cop. And it's like, that's the kid that shouldn't be a cop. Like he's almost settling scores. Like, I've got the power now. Like that's what Elon's kind of like today. Where you're right, he was picked on as a child and now he's a billionaire that has the power to do all these things and like he's getting payback. It's kind of scary, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, it makes me think of Stephen Miller.
oh God, Stephen Miller. Me and Docs talk about this a lot, but if I had to pick who like my most hated person in the Trump administration is, like I think Stephen Miller is probably number one. I can't think of anybody that beat him. A reporter, I can't remember his name, got fired from ABC for writing a tweet where he said that Stephen Miller was pure evil, and they fired him for that. But in my mind, I was like, that was an honest tweet. Like I firmly believe that about Stephen Miller. But real quick, to back up on Musk, you made a comment about him putting chips in our brain. Do you remember during the COVID vaccine hysteria when the right was like, the left is trying to put microchips in us to track us? And, there was a whole thing for a while.
Well,
Elon
actually,
is
the microchips were in the vaccine, weren't
in
they?
the vaccine, yeah. And me, I don't know if I've told this, but I was like, hey, like if they wanted to track us, like our phones, like we carry our phones everywhere and we tell it what we want. Like we Google things and like our phone knows more about us than any chip they could implant in us. But Elon Musk is now implanting chips into people, and the right is like, yay, Elon. And I'm like, this is the thing y'all were afraid of was some billionaire trying to track you through chips. And now you're cheering on the billionaire that's trying to put chips in you. I digress.
And I think it's just I think it's the perception they want us to have. If there's something that I've learned, probably even more so in the last couple months, I'm in my 40s, right? So last couple months, that's super recent in my timeline. And just like Trump talking about, hey, I think the people want a dictator. I'm not saying I'm one, but I think the people are really rooting for a dictator. I think they just celebrate it enough and talk about it enough and make it sound like something we want. So when they just impose their will, whether it's chipping people or Trump running for a third term, it's
Well,
you already said it with Kimmel, right? He's just kind of rattling off the list of who's next, and eventually wait a couple weeks or a couple months, and that seems to come to fruition.
so I've been dancing around with this in my brain, and I'd love for any feedback you have here. But like the whole the right is saying like, well, the left is calling us Nazis and fascists and blah blah blah. And I do think there is a part like where the name calling on both sides, like Trump and the right forgets conveniently that Trump is calling Kamala comrade Kamala and calling her a communist, and he calls Democrats the enemy within. So there's name calling going both ways. And like even with Docs on here occasionally, he'll be like, "Oh, they're all fascists," and I'll try to bring him back. I'm like, "Hey, let's not say fascist. Like they're heading in an authoritarian way, but not quite fascist." But like I agree we shouldn't be using just throwing names around. Nazis, they're racist, they're Nazi, whatever it is. But like, what do you do in a situation like this where like Trump is genuinely heading in like an authoritarian direction? Like, if you looked at an authoritarian playbook, like he's checking all the boxes, like he's on his way. But like, I don't want to hurt the political climate and get people riled up and be like, oh, he's an authoritarian. But like, what if he genuinely starts to? I mean, he's kind of heading that way. Like, do you not call him one for the sake of like not hurting the discourse, or do you just call it out? Like, what are your thoughts?
That's a tough one, right? Because I think we're in a climate where I think you have so many people defensive that certain words are going to trigger a certain group of people to immediately be defensive, whether it's rational for them to be defensive or not. And if your point makes sense, again, I don't think people are really going to look at the value of your statement or a name you're calling someone. I do think it's important to bring that up more in some way to make the general public more aware of it.
The,
Um,
the, the whole like, hey, we're kind of heading in an authoritarian direction.
oh, absolutely. If you took
Okay.
away red and blue and you just simply looked at what was the term you used or how'd you phrase that? It's like they're following the playbook, right? If you
Oh
just
yeah.
went down the list of these are the things that are actively happening, and nobody knew who you were talking about, I think the general public would be incredibly concerned with that.
What's nice, I will say, I there are some right leaning or far right podcasters and whatnot that I generally don't have any respect for that are calling it out. Tucker Carlson being one of them. Tucker Carlson said 2 days ago, he said he's very afraid that the Trump administration is going to use the assassination of Charlie Kirk to basically do a power grab and to impose stricter surveillance on Americans and this and that. And more power to him. He was 100% right there. Even, do you ever watch the Flagrant podcast? It's Andrew Schultz and his guys. It's a pretty good
Gotcha.
podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. They had Trump on before the election. They all were pretty pro Trump. They did a show, I think it came out today, where they were saying, like, this is scarier than anything the left has done. Like, this is an attack on free speech. And, like, so more power to some. It's going to have to be people on the right that say it to make the voters on the right listen. Because the left is, and this is where the right does have a point. The left has been, oh, he's a racist, he's a Nazi, he's a this, he's a that for coming up on 10 years now. So the right's not listening anymore. When they hear somebody on the left try to say that, like, perfect example. One of our high school friends recently, just after the Charlie Kirk thing, posted a very inflammatory thing on Facebook. Me and Docs talked on the phone, and we were like, like I kind of want to say something there, but like he's not going to listen to me or you. Like, and so we both agreed not to say anything. And like an hour later, you commented a very, very good Facebook comment where you were kind of bringing the temperature down. And had those exact same words come from me or Docs, he would have shot back with some kind of an insult. But because it came from you, it was the right person. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, he's not going to say anything shitty to Jesse. Like, I just feel it. I called Docs and I called Docs and I said, go look on Facebook. I guarantee you he's not going to say anything back to Jesse. And he didn't, because you were the right messenger. And on this kind of thing, it's gonna have to be some right-leaning people that wake up the right and say, "Hey, this isn't good. Like we're heading down the wrong path here," for them to listen.
And I agree. It's not to just beat a dead horse, but you know me, I'm not on social media very often if it's not work related. I get kind of comatose with the amount of computer related stuff I have to do in the course of my 9 to 5. And so reading somebody's post doesn't happen very often, at least not a close friend. Replying to somebody's post, it's going to happen even less. I'm talking to my wife, and she had noticed it. A couple other people had commented or made some kind of impression on it, and I see the list of comments coming from that individual, and I see kind of a sandwich where the top is F everybody, I'm firing friends, I'm defriending these people, you guys can all just go bug off. I skip below my comment, and it's a highlight reel of the exact same, and then right there in the middle.
He
Nothing.
didn't say anything to you because again, you were the right person to say that there. Had Docs tried to say it, it would have turned into a 30 reply fight between him and that person. But yeah, I'm hoping he read what you put on there and maybe he took it in and he thought about it. I doubt it. But at the same time, I was very appreciative of you for chiming in there. So thank you for that. I don't think I told you that yet, but me and Doc saw that and we appreciated it. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know you've said that person, good people, right? They've got, I think at the core, I think that person has good intent. I could be wrong, but I feel they are very quick to arm themselves with, napalm and flamethrowers and whatever they can to, really just rain down on anybody opposing their views.
it's funny because there's certain people like this person. I don't want to say this person's name that I knew this person most of my life, and politics were never anything. There's something about Trump where he brought in people that without Trump, this person would have never given a shit about politics. I'm convinced of that. But because of Trump now, if ever anything happens, I guarantee you're going to see a post from him that night on Facebook where he is launching missiles and throwing punches, trying to start a fight with the left. And it's whoa, of all the people, I didn't see him ending up here, but that's where he is. So anyhow,
And not to hash something that needs to be a talking point, but talk about a strategy if you're somebody running for any kind of office, but you find a niche of people that are those that do not pay attention to politics.
mm-hmm.
And now you grab the majority of those people that have never paid attention. And unfortunately, not only does that make up a large sum of people, but it's also a large sum of people that don't pay attention, right? So
that's Trump's greatest political strength is that he activated a whole section of voters that were never going to vote, and he got them to show up to vote. So props to him for that. I mean, he did it through a weird dog whistle way where I hate to do the whole Trump is I don't think Trump is racist. I want to be real clear on this, but I think he realized oh, I could kind of say these things in a very artful way that will attract all the racists to vote for me. I think he's racist adjacent. I don't know how to say it right, but he's well, no, I'm not racist, but hold on, wait, all the things you just said, certain people in America's ears perked up, and all those people are racist. So I don't know. Not all, I want to be very clear, not all Trump voters, not all Republicans are racist. But if you're racist, you're definitely voting for Trump. If you're voting at all, no racist is voting Democrat. I'm just going to throw that out there. So, but
go ahead.
I say we both know several Republican Trump voters that are not racist. It's by all means, it's a small percentage of them. Trump just makes sure he has their vote. Is all I'm trying to say. Agreed.
If I can
go ahead.
I do agree. I do agree. And it's again, it's making up a large percentage of the people out there. Did you see or hear the I guess the quote made by former Republican golly, what the hell was his role? Governor of California. Losing my mind here.
Are we talking about the governor? I can't do an Arnold, but yeah, the governor.
Yeah, the governor.
Thank you. No, so also over the past 10 years, I have suddenly become a big fan of Arnold as far as politics because he seems like Like I keep hoping that there'll be some sane Republicans. Like I was a Republican my whole life, so a part of me is like I want the Republican Party to get back to like I hate to even say this, but like a Mitt Romney or a Jeb Bush type, like someone who's just a decent person that wants lower taxes and smaller government. Like that's all I want, and take care of the national debt. Like that's all I want. There are no Republicans like that today. Arnold, every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, fuck, Arnold's great, and I wish he could run for president. He can't because he's born in another country. But what did Arnold say recently? I haven't seen anything new from him.
I'm not sure if you'd be able to pull it up or if I could quickly, but
Yeah,
the
pull it up.
gist of it is, all right. So kind of like you alluded to with the comment that I made on Facebook, and I think it's very neutral, right? At the end of the day, the general comment had to do with, not left, not right, not blue, not red, but just we're people, right? And bringing people together and being more mindful of what's going on and to join and fighting for the same things. And so today I'm scrolling through my phone, right? It's my lunch break, and all of a sudden I see the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Was it your lunch break or were you on the toilet?
It was neither. I don't take lunch breaks.
Okay, well, just checking. If I'm scrolling my phone, there's a 90% chance I'm on the toilet. All right, sorry, continue.
No, typically it would have been on the toilet, but this happened later in the day, and I already had that morning shit. So we were all
Okay,
that's in the rearview mirror.
good deal.
Um, so yeah, it goes on to mention how Arnold was doing a public speaking and had talked about Charlie Kirk and his recent passing. And the gist of it is, we're getting hit from so many different angles. We have to be very, very careful. If we get any closer to the cliff, then we're going to fall over the cliff. And if you fall down the cliff, then guess what? That's when there's no democracy. Part of that, he added how students really just need to band together, right? It doesn't matter your political views. It makes sense to have an environment where kids can just get together and share what they believe in, right? Doesn't matter what that is. The part that I really kind of resonate with me the most is how communicating to show the world how people power can make a difference. Imagine you get together and start having communications together. You will be an example to the rest of the nation for all universities, how you get together, how you do not see the other side as the enemy or to fight fire with fire or to declare war on one another. Again, it's simply the power of people, and people are the ultimate power. That was perfect, right? Because I didn't know what I was going to read. Quite honestly, I didn't really start following politics until probably the last 10 years. And so, Arnold Schwarzenegger being out of California, I truthfully thought he was a Democrat. And when I saw Republican, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I just thought the content was going to be atrocious.
Yeah.
And it was just a breath of fresh air, man. It's Arnold being Arnold, and he's 100% right.
You might not have been paying attention, but in Trump's first term, like the first year or two of his first term, like Arnold was like tweeting at him and like Trump was tweeting back. Like they were having the first like Twitter beefs of the first Trump administration were Trump versus Arnold. And it was kind of shocking to me because I was like, oh shit, like Arnold's a Republican, that he was probably the first Republican to like call out some bad shit Trump was doing. And Trump let him have it. But like that was back when like all Republicans were afraid to like cross Trump, and there was Arnold. So good for him. Power people. Was it people power? What was it? People power?
People power.
People power. I like that. And that's going back to the whole like trying to bring the discourse better. Like I wish that like I have really good conversations with right-wing people. I live in Oklahoma now. A lot of my buddies up here are Trump voters, and like we'll talk politics and it never gets heated. Never at all. I feel like in most situations though, like you get 30 seconds in and like somebody on the left is going to call the Republican like a fascist or a Nazi or a racist, or the Republican's going to call them a libtard or a groomer or whatever you want to call it. And like it quickly devolves, like as soon as name calling started. And like Docs is my favorite example of this because Docs will be like, yeah, I try to talk to so and so about politics. And I'm like, you don't have to tell me it went bad, right? And he's like, yeah, it went bad. And I'm like, what was your approach? And certain people just approach it with like, well, you're stupid because you voted for the other side. And it's like, yeah, that's people put up their guards at that point. Like you have to approach it from a much more, I don't even know what the right way to say, polite. Polite's the best word I can think of. But like so many people can't do that it kind of scares me that like the first thing out of the gate is going to be like a punch below the belt and like it's on. Like I think people want to do that where like they want to battle. Like I don't want this to be civilized. Like I'm going to call you names and you're going to call me names. Doesn't it kind of seem like that sometimes?
I think so. I think everybody has a little bit of balled up rage, whatever that might be, and I think those opportunities to share their opinion are an opportunity to just puke up the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah, it's
Oh God. Okay. Well, thank you, Arnold. Thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, I wish had Arnold been born in America, I would be, and if he was younger, he's too old. The one thing we got to figure out is we got to stop electing 80-year-olds. I don't know if you saw a show or two ago, me and Docs played a clip of Arnold of Trump at the 9/11 ceremony, and he was sitting there, and half of his face was drooping, and he looked like he was falling asleep while he was sitting there. Like we said this last time, but like we got to get some better candidates, man. Like stop putting the 80-year-olds up. And I keep hearing people still saying like, well, Bernie still has, his brain's still working good. It's still working good right now. Is it going to be working good 4 years from now? I doubt it. Let's find somebody I'm not even saying they have to be young. Let's find somebody in their 60s. Somebody in their 60s would be fantastic right now. Stop with this 80-year-old bullshit. Go ahead.
well, and you and Doc brought something up a couple weeks back, talking about, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but using Trump as a puppet, and I think it had to do either with his health or with there being concerns before people started trying to broadcast that he had passed away because nobody had seen him for a couple days. But what did he say? Like Weekend at Bernie's, right? If they had
Yeah.
the opportunity to just keep him alive forever, um, yeah, I
Stephen
think you're
Miller.
there.
I think Stephen Miller would happily take that. He would be secretly running everything, but using Trump, kind of propping him up and being like, "Oh, nope, Trump's doing this." And I think that's kind of already happening. Like, I really think that Stephen Miller's kind of like the head of several agencies. Like, not on paper, but I think he's dictating what happens on a lot, especially like immigration. If you think Christy Noem is running all that, I got a bad news for you. Like, I think Stephen Miller is telling her exactly what to do and when. It's my
Oh,
personal theory.
absolutely. She's not to be unfair to another human, but she doesn't strike me as being the most intelligent.
She's
Not the sharpest crayon in the box.
she's Ice Barbie when she goes. Have you been watching South Park this year?
Only the little bits and pieces that have
Okay.
to do with.
The episode on her was quite fantastic. So anyhow, real quick, I want to finish up. I got one last video on the Kimmel type stuff, and then we're gonna move on. Or actually, I got two more videos. Sorry to do this to you, but my favorite thing with all that is Republicans spent basically all morning this morning saying like, no, this was ABC and Disney's decision. Like they didn't do this because the government. Like if the government had done it, that'd be a problem. But this wasn't what happened. ABC and Disney did it themselves. This was every Republican story on every news channel and every podcast. And then Trump hops on a plane to come back from England today, and I have a bit of audio for you where he just takes credit for it, basically. So ruined all their hard work. You know how many times that happens where they all come up with a really good story that makes him look good, and then he finally speaks and he just ruins their hard work. Like I feel like that happens frequently. It happened
I
again today.
usually feel like it happens with his best friend Hannity, and Hannity's just keeps, volleying the ball to him, and he's like, "So what you really meant by that is?" He's like, "No, what I said is exactly what I meant." No, you didn't really mean exactly that. This is more of a metaphor, right? And
The most famous one was where he was like, you're not really saying you're gonna be a dictator on day one. And Trump was like, no, I am. I'm gonna be a dictator on day one. And he's like, but you don't really mean that. And he's like, no, I mean exactly that. And it was like, shit. Like you could see Hannity was like, please just I'm teeing you up here. Just anyhow. Here's Trump today coming back from England.
Look, that's something that should be talked about for licensing too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and you take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party.
So he's basically saying there that he's mad that the late night hosts are hitting him every night and that their licenses should be pulled for that. And this is after all morning they're saying the government would never try to do this. And now he's coming out and saying, yeah, they're unfair to me. They're mean to me. We should pull their licenses. So that's where we're at. That's as big an attack on free speech as I think you can have. Like step one is like controlling the media. If you want to look at like authoritarian dictator countries like China, for example, like you can't say anything bad about the government in China. Like if you try to, you will be in jail. The news stations. Have you ever seen where they like make fun of North Korea's news stations, where it's like, oh, the mighty Kim Jong Un, blah 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 blah, whatever. That's where we're kind of at. Is you have to toe the line, or you might get your license pulled. So it seems awesome, though, right? I've always wanted to live in a country like that.
Yeah, it is making more and more sense why Trump has been such a advocate and such a fanboy for people like Kim Jong-un and Putin and everybody else who he seems to very closely follow in the footsteps of.
He said before that he thinks it's awesome how like they rule their country with an iron fist, and like when he says jump, they say how high. Like he thinks that's awesome the way that these certain dictators rule their countries, and he said it on camera. Like it's not like we have reports that he said it. We have audio of him saying it. Pretty ridiculous, right?
Oh, for sure. This is off topic, but it reminds me a couple weeks ago whenever there was the meeting in Alaska, right? And so both media outlets or both sides were very vocal about the lack of productivity that stemmed from that meeting. But if you, what was it? It was I think within like 48 hours of that, there was a big meeting, a lot of different people from different countries were there, and Trump excuses himself to take a phone call.
To go call Putin.
To receive a call from Putin. And
Yeah.
he starts off by, he's kind of commentating this after the fact. And he's like, yeah, I knew it was going to be really rude. And I'm waiting for him to say something like, I don't know, answering the fucking phone and the setting that he was in with all these other, people that are in charge of their nations. No, he's talking about how rude it would have been for him to have that conversation with Putin with everybody else around. So he had to excuse himself. It's like, come on, man. Like just
Apparently he excused himself for like 45 minutes, and like when he came back, everybody was like, what was that? And he was like, oh, I've been talking to Putin in the other room. It's like, well, they're all there negotiating on behalf of Ukraine. Like that would have been a good call to have on speakerphone with all of them there, like one united front negotiating against Putin. But no, we can talk in another episode about what Trump is doing to our allies in Europe, but it's very upsetting to me. Like he's kind of yeah, this is up to you guys in Europe to defend yourselves. Like this, we're not a part of this anymore, and like I have big problems with that. I'll just say.
One of the only times I think in life, if you can go back to being a teenager, perhaps, what are some of the only times where you might get a phone call and your family's around, maybe even your siblings, but you feel the need to excuse yourself to take a phone call? Who's usually on the other end of that call?
So I don't know who it would be, but it would be when I'm about to talk about something I shouldn't be talking about. Like if I'm excused, okay,
or when it's a girl or someone you
Yeah.
have a crush on, and all of a sudden your voice inflection is going to change a little bit. You get a little giddy, and you're like, "Oh, let me take this away from my brother and sister and my mom and dad, because they're gonna know I'm crushing hard on whoever I'm having this conversation with."
Because you said that, I was joking with a buddy up here recently about that. But like, I love it when guys like this is your standard guy voice, and then you get a phone call and it's like, "Hey, sweetie," and it's like, "Whoa, where did that voice come from? Like, that's not your voice." Oh, hey. Anyhow, sorry. But yeah, no, that's. I want to know what Trump sounds like on the phone with Putin, because I'll bet he's like a giddy schoolgirl. I'm just.
Oh, for
gonna
sure.
throw that out
Definitely,
there.
his voice goes up an octave.
Yep. So, anyhow, here's my last video on all the Kimmel stuff, and then we're going to move on from that. But this is a guy I really respect. I think you do. I'm not 100%. But this was today. This gentleman spoke. Let's listen to what a good man has to say about what's going on.
Tell us what you think about what happened last night to Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, this is misery. And in the world of somebody who is an authoritarian, maybe a dictatorship, sooner or later, everyone is going to be touched. But this is me. For 30 years, I did this for a living. So I see this happen. They took care of Colbert. That was rude. That was inexcusable. The man deserves a great deal of credit. He's in the Hall of Fame 9 times. And to be manipulated like that because the Ellison family didn't want to trouble Donald Trump with this move, so they got rid of him. Not only got rid of him, got rid of the whole franchise. You're not going to have to worry about anything, Larry. It's all gone. It's fine. Good night. And then my good friend Jimmy Kimmel. I feel bad about this because we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian, criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
Get it, Letterman. So,
yes, sir.
And on that note, real quick, Trump's donors or allies now control Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and WhatsApp. So, and that's assuming this sale goes through for TikTok, where it appears Larry Ellison, his son is who just bought CBS and Paramount, so now they control South Park, Comedy Central, CBS News, all that.
Mm.
But the dad, is part of the team buying a TikTok. Then when you look at news stations, they got Fox News, CBS, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, and Larry Ellison, that same guy, is putting together a bid right now to buy CNN and HBO. It's basically a part of Warner Brothers Media. So it's not going to be the government making laws. It's the government has to approve any sale or merger, and they're only going to approve it if it's a Trump-aligned billionaire buying it, so they can then control the message. So we're down to where now, if all of those go through, we're going to have NBC and MSNBC, which I don't watch MSNBC. I don't have anything against it. I just don't watch it. But we're going to have that, and then we're going to have some YouTube people. Also, the guy that runs YouTube is one of the guys that was at that technology dinner recently with Trump, that was sitting around the table telling him how great he is. So if you think that it's going to stop at regular, old-fashioned news and not suddenly, I don't know, I could see in a very short future where it won't be obvious, but it'll be, shows that are talking negatively about Trump won't be showing up in your feed. Like, it'd be one of those where it's like shadow banning. And yep. I think we're heading that way, and that's authoritarianism 101 right there, is silence any critics. Silence the media that's critical of you. It's kind of scary. I'm trying to think here. All right. I'm pretty much, I know the last thing I was going to say. You made a comment about the people online talking. Elon controls Twitter. That's where most of this is coming from. Zuckerberg, he's kissing Trump's ass every chance he gets. He controls Facebook. For the first couple days after Charlie Kirk got shot, I had so many Republicans that are like, all over social media, I just keep seeing people that are celebrating this. And I'm like, I know a lot of Democrats in my life. I don't know any of them that are glad Charlie Kirk got shot. I don't know a single one. So I start searching for it on Twitter. And this is mainly a Twitter thing. And every account that appeared to be, not every, there were a couple, like Keith Olbermann is, I used to like him when he was on SportsCenter, but he's fucked when it comes to political stuff. Like he's saying terrible stuff about Charlie Kirk being in hell and this and that. So there are a couple out there. But like 95% of what I was seeing, I would click on the account and then take a look, and it's like, oh, this very clearly is a bot. Like, this is a bot from probably another country that's trying to get shit riled up. And who controls the algorithm? How come we're seeing that so much? Well, Elon controls that algorithm. Would it benefit Elon at all for the right and left to be at each other's throats? Would it benefit Trump? I'm thinking 100%. So if we're constantly seeing this, like, oh my God, every time I go online, it looks like Democrats are just celebrating Charlie Kirk. I'm very skeptical of that. Like, I'm very skeptical of it. I think that some billionaires are controlling social media and are controlling what we see on it. So that's my conspiracy theory of the night.
And I don't disagree with that, nor am I trying to bastardize what you just said, because I see that very much to be the case. I mean, it makes sense that would be what's happening. I will say, and I think we're all guilty of it at some point in our life, where we kind of laugh off something that is super serious. An example I'll bring up is freshman year of high school, right? I'm dating a girl. This is like hand-holding stage of my dating relationship. And this girl I'm dating, her sister passed away. I guess she had an illness for a decade. The family knew that there was something that was going to take her life early on, and it did eventually. I think she passed when she was maybe like 13, 14 years old. And I remember going to the funerals, one of my first funerals to ever attend, and a bunch of the jocks, right? Not necessarily the guys in athletics that we were really close to, but the guys that just had a kind of peacock and flex and, flaunt their egos. They were laughing about it. They're laughing about the passing of this girl. And I remember kind of having that, I guess, that reputation where I could ask these friends point blank, like, hey man, like I don't think this is really a laughing matter. And outside of the public eye, they told me, hey, this is how I cope, right? I know this is
Okay.
bullshit, but the way I cope is to laugh it off because this is horrible. I say that because I think there's a lot of times where behind closed doors, we might make a joke. For instance, I think it's the Buddhist belief that there is never a time for violence. And if there's ever a time for violence, it is only in the form of self-defense if your life depends on it. And I believe outside of that, it's all about peaceful protest. That concerns me because I see a lot of people making just silly comments that are getting severely canceled, right? People losing their jobs for it. Um, the last thing I'll say on the topic, and it kind of kills me because it's the first audio clip that I heard immediately after I found out that Charlie Kirk had passed away. When they find that old guy, right? The older fella.
The one that was trying to, he admitted now he was trying to cause a distraction so the real shooter could get away because he was yelling, I did it, shoot me, shoot me. You talking about that guy?
That guy.
Yeah.
If you go back and you watch that, very faintly in the background, the people that are yelling and screaming at the law enforcement who detain him, you know, drag him by his fucking head is what I hear.
Mhm.
And that's the first clip I see. And then within 24 hours, I hear all these people talking about how the left is, laughing about this. And, now we're going to fight fire with fire. It's like, man, you didn't even know if that guy was guilty or not.
Yep.
And your own kind are talking about dragging this man through the streets by his head. It's just,
They were
it's
ready for
too
civil
much.
war that day. Like they were full on ready for civil war, the right? And like I very much like my thought there was like, hey, I'm gonna lay real low. People are upset and I get it. Like I I very much I said at the beginning, I very much don't think it was cool what happened. I think it was terrible, this and that. I will say I was never a big Charlie Kirk fan, so like it didn't hit me very hard. Like I don't have a problem. I probably said several times that I don't like Charlie Kirk. I didn't care for him. Nobody should get shot for their beliefs, so be real clear on that. But at the time, I was like, oh, I called Docs immediately, and I was like, hey, FYI, like people are going to be really, really upset about this, so we be very careful with what you say. And I kind of stuck my head in the sand, and I was like, I'm going to give it this like 2 or 3 days to kind of let them get their anger out, let them make their Facebook post where they're unfriending people and calling for a civil war, and then once they calm down, we'll try to talk about this. But like those first couple days were intensely emotional for them. And that's one of those things where I think a lot of people on the left failed to realize that, where they were like, oh, can't you take a joke? And it's like, hey, like they're very upset right now. Save the jokes for a couple weeks from now. This ain't the time.
I definitely don't think it would have been a joking matter in any way. It shouldn't have been, at least.
Mm,
Um, Two things that get me. One, and it's not to take away from the fact that a human being lost their life, right? There's a widow left behind, there's children left behind without a father. That's horrible, right? It doesn't matter who you are, that's horrible. You kind of predicted part of this. One, I think that it is challenging for me to see that somebody that is a professional debater, regardless of what he would debate about, is now personified and looked at as, Mother Teresa, right? I can't put him in the same category as Mother Teresa or Gandhi or anyone who's even remotely in the ballpark to these beautiful people that have helped shape our world. Where you deserve some credit. You mentioned a long, long time ago, I think during the attempted assassination on Trump the first time around, you're like, thank goodness that didn't happen because, and maybe you can fill in the blank, but what you suggested could happen then, would you agree that's more or less what's
yeah. Oh, and they should have learned, not they. There's one person they shot. I'm going to back up and sidetrack real
good for
quick.
you for correcting that?
Yeah. There so many people are like, they tried to kill Trump and they killed Charlie. No, they didn't. The two people that shot at Trump, the kid, I can't remember his name, but the kid seemed to be odd to say the least. Like he was raised in a Republican family. He didn't seem that political. And the FBI flat out said that he was Googling where I think it was Biden at the time, but where Biden was going to be and where Trump was going to be. He was going to kill whichever one was closest to him. And this is what the FBI said. This is Trump's FBI that has come out and said this since Trump took office. He was Googling who was closest, and it just happened that Trump was coming closest to his town. But there was no they there. So, and even the guy on the golf course was a crazy person. Anyhow, but no, if they had successfully killed Trump, it would have been terrible for a lot of reasons, but just the fact they took a shot at him, and I'm saying they again, so I'm sorry, but just the fact somebody took a shot at him, like it made him more powerful. And somebody, the shooter in this case, should have learned from those first two attempts on Trump's life. But like this, like the Republicans going into the Charlie Kirk situation were looking like they were going to get creamed in the midterms, just creamed. And then since that assassination, like they've got a little bit of energy now. Like there's new, I think it was something like 50,000 requests for new chapters for TPUSA, his organization at different college campuses. Like they're this energized the right in a big way where like the one thing the left had going for them was they had all the energy heading into the midterm. So like, what do you think you accomplished here? You shut one guy up and you enraged a whole movement that might show up to vote here at the midterm. So if your goal was to not have, in this kid's case, it seemed his goal was to protect LGBTQ rights and not have, them persecuted. Like, yeah, you just screwed that up big time. Like in everything you were trying to do. I don't know if you saw, and I'm not prepared to talk about this at length, but it came out today that the Trump administration is preparing to label all transgenders as, oh, I'm going to try to find this real quick. I should have had it. And yeah, they're trying to label it's basically domestic terrorists. I can't remember. It's not that, but by labeling all transgenders this, it gives the FBI the legal authority to basically surveil them harder and keep tabs and put them on watch lists and all that. So, like, if that was your goal, shooting Charlie Kirk was better treatment of the trans people. Like, it backfired incredibly, and now they're all going to be on watch lists. So, law of unintended consequences. Like, it's just people don't think things out, I think. And it's like, if they shoot Trump tomorrow, God forbid, I don't want that to happen, but like JD Vance will be our president for the next 11 years because he will get to run for 2 terms after that, and the people will the people on the right, the Trump voters, will never forgive the left for that, like ever. Like that's just, it would be a bad situation. So anyhow, we're moving on from Charlie Kirk. And you got anything else on Charlie Kirk? Because I'm ready to move on.
I do not. I am.
Gotcha. I'm going to let you talk in a second about the West Texas oil billionaires, but I do have one tweet that I wanted to look at with you here. This has to do with Trump's power grab. All right, so Trump tweeted this today. I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick and dangerous radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Several things I want to say here. First of all, Antifa is not there's not an organization that is Antifa. And I think there's a lot of people that don't understand that on the right. Like the KKK has chapters, like the Proud Boys has like chapters, like they're an organization. Antifa, there's no group, like there's no head of Antifa. What this is legally going to be able to get him to do. The No Kings protest happened all across the nation back in June, maybe. And I went to the No Kings protest. I believe you went with me, didn't you?
I was there.
Yeah. There were people there holding signs that said like fascist with like the line going through it, like saying they're against fascism. What this is, according to people I'm reading, what this is legally going to be able to have him do is anybody who shows up at any protest and says, "Hey, I'm against fascism," he can treat you as a terrorist at that point. The way this executive order was worded, okay? So fascism is bad. Traditionally, America fights against fascism. World War II was us stomping the fascism out of Germany. Like this is going to be weird for Republicans here, but America is very Antifa oriented. We're anti-fascist, okay? I don't want a fascist to run our country. I think you would probably agree with that. I don't know what legal hurdles he might have to clear, but if he can legally identify or designate Antifa as a major terrorist organization, like that gives him all kinds of power over the left. And at first, when people saw this, they were like, "Oh, that dummy. He doesn't know that Antifa is not an actual organization he can sanction." But then people started, no, this was written by somebody who knows what's going on. Like this will give him broad power to crush any left-leaning organization. If they at any point in time say anything about being anti-fascist, boom, you said that phrase, you are now part of this, and he has a lot of power over that. So just something to be afraid for going forward. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Any
Any,
immigrant, dark skin, anyone speaking a language other than English,
yeah,
pretty much anyone that doesn't look like himself.
Exactly. And Docs has been saying for a while that, like, you know, if you just label somebody, oh, that's a terrorist, like if you just call them a terrorist, now you have all kinds, they don't have rights at that point. They're a terrorist. And that's basically what he's doing with this Antifa executive order. So if you say anything along the lines of, I am anti-fascist, like, boom, you're now part of this group who is a major terrorist organization. Good luck.
And I think you just said it, but does that also imply that there's no due process? So you could be, you know, handcuffed and detained and shipped off somewhere, and that skips over your ability to have due process?
I believe so. I'm not 100% on that, but because terrorists don't have rights is what I've always heard. So I believe that would be the case.
And I forgot where I'd heard it from, but I think that was kind of the loophole of, you know, think of how, you know, what the magnitude of that is and how scary it could be, because if there is no due process, then to your point, you can unlawfully lock up a whole lot of people, ship off who you don't want, and just like who's the gentleman that they sent to the Salvadorian prison?
Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Yes, I feel like it's going to be a whole lot of that, but with more of a Caucasian name, perhaps.
Well, and that's what the people that they were during the war on terror, which thank you for your service. But the way they got away, they were holding people at Guantanamo Bay for a decade with no trial and no charges filed, and it's because they were terrorists, and they don't have rights. You can just hold them indefinitely without a trial because they were terrorists. And what he's trying to do here is say that anybody who's anti-fascist is a terrorist and therefore has no rights. Like, so I don't know how you challenge an executive order. Right? There's got to be a mechanism for somebody to challenge this. But like, if this is allowed to stand as written, like he can do a lot now. Like he can have the DOJ or the FBI or Homeland Security. I don't know who, but they have broad power when they're dealing with a major terrorist organization, which is what he's labeled Antifa. And again, you can't go find the local chapter of Antifa and, you know, put sanctions on them or, you know, tax them or whatever he would try to do. Like, it's just a loose group of people that are not cool with fascists. So anyhow, that's my last little thing to scare everybody tonight. So I know it's getting late. Do you have it in you to talk a little West Texas oil billionaire?
We can sprinkle a little bit in, and maybe it's something that either you and Doc can revisit, and or I at some other point and kind of dive into it with a little bit more substance.
Well, all I know about it is James Tallarico on Rogan mentioned that there were two West Texas oil billionaires that I think he said were brothers, and that they want to basically turn Texas into a Christian state, I believe is kind of the gist of what he had said. Am I right on that?
You're spot on.
I know nothing else about it. Can you inform me a little bit here?
So I will give you a little bit because this is something that I shared with a group of professionals that I visit with weekly. And a lot of this centered around the energy industry, which I'm not going to get into. However, there is somebody I would love to have possibly as a guest on your show. Somebody who actually went to school. They're a unicorn, right? Born and raised in Austin, Texas, went to school. I forgot the term they use, but it has to do with like general politics, right? So it's just something he's heavily rooted in. When I first brought this up to a group of professionals, there's about 20 people in the room. He's the only person that had heard of either of these two names. One, that's scary, right? Because that just says in a group of intelligent people, and there are a lot of people that have been in Austin for 20, 30, 40 years that are very into politics. Didn't know anything about these fellas. But you have the Dunn brothers, and you have Ferris Wilks. And so really Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks, you know, you're talking people that run a church, people that have a very strong religious following, and a lot of people that participate in their churches. These are those super churches that we see, kind of like righteous gemstones.
Nice.
These are also billionaires, right? So when you're talking about following the money, and who is injecting money into helping others campaign and what strings are attached with that campaign money and what they want to see passed, whether it's the Ten Commandments in all the schools in Texas, right? Whether it has to do with a THC ban in Texas to help stimulate or suppress, THC conflicting with the alcohol and beverage industry. There's just a lot that's been going on. I've always heard of little bits and pieces of this as a kid, that there's people in politics, and then there's the people behind the scenes that are really running the show and funding it. Uh, I guess just being more tuned in with politics and being in my 40s, it's just appalling, man. And to see the things that are happening at the helm of those with deep pockets, it's disgusting.
Well, the way that it typically went was there were billionaires and rich people always behind these politicians, but they stayed in the shadows, like for good reason. Like we heard, George Soros on the left and the Koch brothers on the right, but they didn't want to be famous for doing. They didn't want anybody to know that they were really pulling the strings, and that it was like that all the way till this most recent election. And so all of a sudden now we got Elon, Mark Andreessen, the guy, Larry Ellison, the guy Oracle that just bought CBS, like they suddenly became like cool to be like, yeah, I'm the guy giving millions of dollars to Donald Trump, and they almost want to be famous for it now, and it's really weird because throughout all of American history, there have been rich people pulling the strings and putting money in these politicians' pockets, but now some of them are willingly coming out and like they want you to know there. And then there's good investigative journalism, which I think is how these West Texas oil billionaires got found out. I don't think they want to be in the limelight, but I think people are figuring it out basically. Is that kind of where it's at?
That's my best guess. I feel like they want to be more of like a passive donor, but yeah, it's something that when I know we talked about it previously, James Tellerico did that Joe Rogan interview. That's the first time I've heard of 90% of this, and the takeaway I got from that is nobody seems to know, and those that do, it's very few. I think both sides would be very, very disturbed if they knew really what was fueling the fire and probably responsible for a lot of the changes that we're seeing coming down the pipeline.
I can believe that. Hey, on Tallarico, real quick. I'm in Oklahoma, so I don't get to see local stuff in Texas. But like, is he all over the commercials down there? Do you see much? I see him online a lot, but I'm just curious, what's his ground game like? Like, is he advertising? Do you think he's got a shot at winning the Senate?
So I can't really answer that accurately. So I'm somebody who usually does not do a lot of subscribing on YouTube
Okay.
because of the content, right? All of a sudden, I like this one chef, and now I'm going to see a whole bunch of this one chef when really I just want to watch cooking. Um, I did subscribe. I've got a good feeling a lot of what I'm seeing is because of that recent subscription. Um, Again, I never knew the guy existed until 2 months ago. I am seeing more of his stuff. The one thing that is promising is I'm following people that are not just him, but other podcasters, mostly on the left side of things, that are really taking a lot of his clips and a lot of his because I'm sure you're super familiar with the gerrymandering, right?
Yeah.
That's been going on around the country, especially in Texas. So he was one of the ones, as you know, who left the state. And so I think that got him some attention with a lot of other people that are now broadcasting more and more of his content.
He had one speech before he went on Rogan where he was talking about the Ten Commandments in the classroom and why he's against it. And he was delivering it on like the Texas House floor. And that is the first time I saw him. And that went kind of viral and everybody was like, whoa, who's this Texas Democrat that's religious and this and that. And then he went on Rogan. And at that point, I feel like anybody paying attention to politics across the country suddenly knew the name James Tallarico. And when I saw he launched a Senate bid, very good first video he did there, kind of his video announcing his campaign. And then everything I've seen since has been done really well. It seems like he's definitely getting funded from people across the country. There are billionaires in all kinds of random states sending him money, which I kind of don't like. I think that, if you're running for a Texas office, you should be limited to Texas donors, but everybody's doing it, so he should totally be able to do it too. But I'm kind of hopeful. We all thought that Ted Cruz could possibly lose to Beto O'Rourke last time, and it was close, but not really. What sucks is John Cornyn is the senator from Texas who's actually the better of the two. Like, I don't mind John Cornyn that much. If Tallarico was running against Cruz, I think he'd have a better chance. Cornyn he's not super MAGA, and I think it's gonna be harder to beat Cornyn, but I'm rooting for the guy.
And just to make sure, Corning is Democratic or Republican?
He's a Republican. You guys have two Republican senators, Ted Cruz and John Cornyn. Ted Cruz, everybody knows because he's an asshole and he's always saying stupid shit, and you can't help but see Ted Cruz. John Cornyn kind of is a boring senator. Like, he just goes to work and does his thing, and he doesn't kiss Trump's ass all the time, and that's who Tallarico is going to be going up against. So, like I said, if he waited 4 more years and went up against Ted Cruz, he'd have a better chance. But I like the fact that he's trying now. So hopefully he gets it. Well, anyhow,
the world, or at least this country, could benefit from it.
Yeah, well, it's late, and I'll bet you want to go to bed. Am I guessing right?
With the alarm clock going off in about 4.5 hours, sleep is not a bad thing.
Got it. Well, I do appreciate it. Let's if you got time, let's try to do this once more before Doc recovers from his hair plugs. And other than that, good having you on, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Good chatting with you.
Later.
Sometimes you eat the bar, sometimes the bar eats you.